Hi, I'm Dana, and today I really want to talk about autism and tattoos. It's not something I've seen anybody else talk about, and I think it's largely because a lot of the things that I discussed are either very obvious traits, which is good, we should talk about that, or it's very child focused, and obviously kids aren't running around getting tattoos. So I want to start by saying this is my experience. Obviously, every autistic person is different, and not every autistic person gets or wants tattoos. But I think that there is a very I don't know the word. But I think the split of those two people tends to be very extreme. Like, as someone who's had quite a lot of autistic friends, it does tend to be either like they absolutely do not want to ever get a tattoo, they have no desire for it, they don't know why people would, and like they'll accept it, they let people do what they want, but their brain's just like, why would I ever want someone to etch into my skin with a needle? And fair. But then there's the other camp, that's me and a lot of the friends that I have now, where we're like, why would you not want to? We have this incredible technology where we can put art onto our skin and keep it there forever. What part of my brain would not immediately want that to be a thing? And like I say, I very much fall into that camp. I knew from a very, very young age that I wanted to have tattoos. I think part of it's that my dad had tattoos. He was a sailor, so he had like ship tattoos, and not Laurel and Hardy, Popeye. Like, my dad, like, he wasn't a heavily tattooed man. He had like, I think he literally only had two, but I looked at them a lot as a kid and was like, oh my gosh, they are so cool. So I'm gonna go through this video sort of with like a bit of a tattoo walkthrough and sort of sprinkle my opinions in as we go, because I have several tattoos, as you might have noticed, because one of them's, this one, but that was not my first one. So my first tattoo was my Lord of the Rings tattoo. It's 9 in Elvish. It's the same one that the cast got. And I was around 9 years old when I decided that was going to be my first tattoo. I'd gotten like the movie companion books, and there was like a whole double page spread saying like the cast have gotten these tattoos, here's where they got them, here's what it looks like, here's what it means. And I remember just reading it and being like, I'm gonna do that. I'm getting that tattoo. I'm part of this cast. We're in this together, guys. And I told my parents, I told my brothers, I told my friends, like I told everyone in my life, like when I turn 18 and I can get tattoos, I'm getting this Lord of the Rings tattoo. And everyone was kind of like, yeah, of course you are, Dana, of course you are, whatever. And I think, I know that everybody forgot about it because then I turned 18 and I got the tattoo and everyone was like, what have you done? What the hell? This is insane. And I was just there like, I've spent over like 10 years of my life preparing for this moment I get this tattoo. I don't know why everyone else is so surprised. And then it kind of turned out that everyone was so surprised because it didn't mean anything. And that's one that's come up a lot for me with like all the tattoos that I've got, and everyone's like, but it doesn't mean anything. And I think that that's where the autism really plays in, and it's part of me being autistic, because my tattoos are all related to special interests. And a lot of my friends also have tattoos that are related to special interests rather than things that people would consider mean something, you know? Like, I have some friends that have like very meaningful, impactful tattoos that are quite, not abstract, you can tell what the tattoo is, but the meaning behind it isn't, I like this TV show, this is my favourite band, you know? So it is obviously something that varies from person to person, like everything else ever. But for me, it's always very much related to like, this is something that means so much to me. This is my special interest. This is something that brings me joy and brings me happiness and comfort and peace. It does mean something. But because I'm not like, oh yeah, my nan died and then this was her favourite flower or whatever, suddenly it doesn't mean anything and it's a silly tattoo to have gotten. And then my next tattoo was my House MD tattoo, because I was still really scared of getting anything like actually big, even though I knew that it didn't hurt. And that's another big one for me. I have watched like full grown men be in tears while getting tattoos in the same areas that I'm getting tattoos. And it's one of those where like pain tolerances differ. It's fair enough. Like, I'm not going to like laugh at anyone or take the piss. But these are people that you would expect to have a higher pain tolerance than me and to handle pain better than I would. And yet they are like very clearly going through it, and I'm pretty much fine. Like, I wouldn't say it's a stim. I'm not one of these people that like actively enjoys getting tattooed. It's not the most comfortable, nicest feeling in the world, but it's such a repetitive feeling. It's such a repetitive feeling that it really just doesn't bother me. I just get used to it. I'm just like, oh, that's what you're going to be doing for the next 8 hours. Okay, I'll just sit here then. You know, I pretty much can just accept that it's happening and then ignore it. I don't react that much to getting tattooed. Like, I feel it, it's not pleasant, but it's fine. Whereas a lot of other people that I've seen getting tattooed and known to get tattoos, like even my ex-boyfriend was very like, that was so painful, I can't believe people actually do this, I'm never getting another tattoo. And I was like, it's okay, like I respect your opinion, but I really don't think it's that bad. And then I got my X-Files tattoo, and this was where I realised that I was sort of starting to memorialise TV shows as I finished them. House MD was one of the shows that I'd watched a lot growing up in Denmark. It was one of the few English shows that was just on quite often. So I'd watched like lots of episodes, but I'd never watched it consecutively. So a lot of the times when it got into like plot arcs, I'd be like, whoa, what the hell's going on? So eventually I sat down and I watched the whole show and I loved it. I was like, I'm really glad that I finally watched it. These characters like really mean a lot to me, and a lot of the times the shows that I get most into are the shows that I have some sort of like relation to my childhood to now, because it feels like I've had those characters the whole time and it's always like being there and being a part of things, you know? So getting the House MD tattoo was very like commiserating the fact that I'd finally watched the whole show. I'd seen every single episode, I knew every like little plot point that there was. I loved these characters, I loved this show, and I quite often, like when I finish a show, kind of don't know what to do with myself a little bit. I'm like, oh my god, it's gone, it's finished. And being able to get a tattoo felt like I was able to like sort of keep them with me a little bit and keep track of what I've watched as well, because I watch a lot of things. And obviously I don't get a tattoo of everything I watch, but I would have a lot more tattoos of TV shows if they weren't so pricey. So my X-Files tattoo was the same, where I'd always sort of intended to watch the X-Files. I'd seen the odd episode as a child, but I just never like had the option of watching it, you know? It was as simple as that. Like, and then all of a sudden we had streaming and everything and I could just watch anything. I was like, oh my god, I can watch the X-Files. So I did, loved it, absolutely adored it. I used to pronounce my name Dana, and after watching the X-Files I was like, actually I am Dana. And that was my first like big tattoo. The other two are basically just an outline. That was the first tattoo where like there was an outline and there was filling it in and there was highlighting and I had to choose the colours, and it was quite stressful. I got really lucky. I was going to a really great tattoo parlour that's now like closed, and the guy moved back to a different country and it's a whole thing. So that's also part of why I haven't gotten more tattoos. Like, I find it very difficult to go into new environments, especially ones where I don't know what to expect with new people, and to do all of that to get something permanently etched into my skin is terrifying. So I'd found one studio that was like very, very close to my home and that I really trusted to get the X-Files one and the ones that I'm going to talk about afterwards. The first two I got at a different studio and I wasn't very comfortable. I think I would have stepped up to like a bigger tattoo sooner. I mean, my third one was my bigger one, but I think the second one probably would have been a bigger, more like extensive one had I felt more comfortable at the first studio I was at. But I just felt extremely awkward and out of place, and like they didn't really know what to do with me because I'm not necessarily like the usual clientele. I was very, very uncomfortable getting my first two tattoos, and I think with the House MD one at least, they didn't do what I wanted. It wasn't the design I asked for, but they'd drawn it and it was there and they put it on my skin and I was like, yeah, okay, it's happening now. And I still love it because it is what I wanted it to be, more or less. It's the concept, you know, but I don't actually love the design of it, and I would have had it differently if I could have. I mean, I could have, but you know, if I wasn't my little awkward, autistic, anxious self. Whereas the studio that I found for my others were really, really amazing. Like, I went in with my X-Files one, I was like, I want it to be an alien, I want it to have like an X-Files reference, I want an X-Files quote, design me something. And when I went back, they'd done two different designs that I could choose from. They were both beautiful, they were both like they were vastly different but so spot on to what the kind of vibe I'd put across was. I was able to like help pick the fonts. Like, it was such an hands-on design experience for someone that can't design shit. Like, it was the perfect experience. That's how it should be to get a tattoo. And if I went to a different studio now and I didn't have that same experience, I would call it out, you know. I would be like, I'm not happy with this, I don't like this isn't what I'm asking for. I would be a problem customer if they were problem people, you know. But I also think that I would probably be more upset with the other tattoo not necessarily being, I mean, it literally isn't the design I wanted. I had a font in mind, I wanted it to be like tall and thin. There was a whole thing I wanted that they just did not do. And honestly, I think if I wasn't autistic, I would probably be more upset about that. But it's the thing of like, I am so used to it being there. I feel such a minimal connection to my body, like physically, visibly, like any of it. Like, I feel so unconnected. It's, you know, it's just the thing I live in. It's not that important. If I had more of like a connection with my body and really saw it as like me, I think I probably would be more upset that it wasn't actually the way that I wanted it to be. But I just honestly don't care that much. But this was the point for me that my mum started seeing me as like a tattooed person, because Dana has 3 tattoos. So I could not meet anybody with my mother without her being like, pull your leg up, pull your pants up, like show them your tattoos. And that was where people started being like, so you just get tattoos of TV shows then? And I started to feel so much like judgment and pressure for not getting like meaningful or important tattoos, that I decided I was going to have to get a meaningful and important tattoo. And that's where I got my lyric tattoo. And I cheated everyone. I scammed my little ass off with this, because I told like my mum and my partner and everyone, like, oh yeah, there are these lyrics that like really mean a lot to me. It's Foo Fighters Sonic Highways one. It's cold as a match, ready to strike. So I was like, you know, because I'm like cold as a match and I'm like gonna go and like ambition, and everyone bought it, everyone ate it up. I absolutely loved it. The reality is I'd watched Sonic Highways, I'd watched the X-Files. Dave Grohl was very much like a part of my fandoms, and I basically saw it as just another like commiseration of like, I've seen the Foo Fighters, I've watched Sonic Highways, here's my little moment stamp of that event, you know? But I really like span it and spoke it up and acted as though like it was the most meaningful tattoo you've ever heard about, and it was like all about how I was about to start like fucking living life after being so anxious, man, which took me another like 5 years, but you know. And through all this, the tattoo that I kept talking about getting and saying I really wanted was my Dave Grohl's guitar on my arm. And this was another one where I was really glad to have gone to the studio that I did and had the artists around that I had, because they put the stencil on for the actual guitar, and obviously there's a lot of like blank empty space, and I do eventually want to like fill it up and have like a patchwork sleeve going on, but they were very like, we could do this and we could do this, and they were drawing all sorts onto my arm to make it look good. And it's one of those where this is also like my scarred little emo arm from my teen years, you know what I mean? So I was very nervous of having it out and having people like actively look at it and see all of that, you know. And they were just so kind about, like, they weren't even kind about it. That's what I appreciated. They just didn't fucking mention it. Their eyes didn't linger. It was an arm that they were tattooing, and the scars on it made no, like, zero difference. And they put me so at ease, made me so comfortable. And it was because I was that comfortable I could be like, no, I actually don't like any of this stuff you do, and I'm sorry that you've just spent like 40 minutes drawing all this extra stuff, but I do just want the guitar. I'm still not very well, okay? I'm trying my best. And I do also want another guitar over here to like mirror it and have like symmetry, but I don't know whose guitar I want. I don't like anyone enough right now. One of my best friends is a bassist. Maybe I'll get their bass. So they're currently all the tattoos I have. I did really desperately want to get a tattoo while I was in Turkey back in 2019. And I still really wish that I had, but my partner at the time and his parents that we went with like really convinced me it would be a ridiculous idea, and tattoo artists in Turkey are obviously just so like disgustingly dirty and savage that it'd get infected immediately. And I really think I'd have been fine. I should have gone for it and gotten my little like travel tattoo that I wanted. I think I'd have loved it. It would have been really fun. But to round off, I do think it's a bit insane, frankly, that people have so much to say about tattoos, like the ones that are like directly to the people with the tattoos, you know, like when people be like, but they don't mean anything, but this, like that is a piece of art that I have chosen and paid to have permanently etched onto my body. Either say you like it or shut the fuck up. I'm sorry, like that is there forever. It's like telling me you don't like my nose, like what? Okay, no one gives a shit. You could have just not said that. So yeah, I'd love to know if you're autistic, if you have any tattoos, if you're super against and don't want any tattoos, what tattoos you do have, just anything about the subject matter would be very fun to hear about, because like I said at the start, I don't think I've seen anyone discuss like how autism can tie in with like the tattoo choices and the like. And again, obviously every autistic person's different, not every autistic person wants or has tattoos, like blah blah blah. This is me, okay? This channel is about me, my experiences. You don't have to relate to them because they're mine. If you do, it's really cool and I'm glad you do, because it makes me feel way better about myself, but no one else to relate to it. You can be different. And now there's a massive truck coming down my road beeping, so I am going to just tie this off here. You can also follow me over on TikTok where I post daily. I post here on Thursdays, Sundays and Tuesdays now. You can follow me on Instagram where I post pictures occasionally of like my friends and my family, and like it's a good time over there, to be fair. I just don't post very often. And there's also Twitter where I fandom shitpost occasionally. You can also find me over on Patreon or Ko-fi if you would like to donate to me monetarily for making this content, but you don't have to, there's no pressure. It's that's how I feel about money, just 24/7. So whoever you are, wherever you are, if you have a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year, and I will see you again in a couple of days.